Hello, and welcome to the 2026 Food Program Training with AR Children. This year's annual training's theme is, excuse me, Snack Smart and Grow Strong. My name is Nicole Harris. I am the trainer for AR Children Food Program. This recorded training is for those that were not able to attend one of our in-person trainings this year. So we're going to get started. This is for our family child care providers and our daycare centers. Here's the agenda for our 2-hour training. First, if you do not have a copy of this, you should have received a packet in the mail with a red folder. And in that folder would have a copy of our agenda for today and the training checklist. We're going to spend about an hour reviewing the required annual training topics for the food program, including the child menu pattern, infant menu pattern, meal count, claim submission, review of record keeping requirements, reimbursement, and civil rights. We will also go over a few hot topics and common issues that have come up in this last year. The second hour of our time together will focus on this year's training theme, which is the Snack Smart and Grow Strong. We will explore all things snacks, including new snack ideas, creative snacks for special occasions, and serving nutritionally dense, high satiety snacks, including whole grains, and offering some tips. We'll also highlight some of the resources that are available to help you supercharge your food program snacks moving forward. So here's a copy of what the training checklist looks like. It's very important that we receive this back to go into your file to show that you have been trained for the year. We need one of these per facility. And also with this email, there is a questionnaire, and all that is just a few questions that you would find the answers in this presentation. That way that we know that that you watched this video. Okay, so if you don't mind when you're finished watching this video, and the great thing about doing it on demand like this is that you can pause and restart whenever you would like. But when you finish this 2-hour training, if you'll take the time to fill in the training checklist and the questionnaire and send those back to us. You can send it to me, Nicole, at ar-children.com. You can send it to Kristen or Mona, Melissa, Shelby. Anyone at the office is fine, so that we'll have a record that you have completed your annual training. And please do your best to have all of this to us by the end of August, because in September we're going to be working on our new agreements, and October 1 starts a new year on the food program. So please make sure you get those to us by the end of August. Okay, so the first question that I want to ask about is, what's the official name for the food program? And I was surprised during the in-person classes that a lot of people did not know what CACFP stood for. So the correct answer is C, Child and Adult Care Food Program, CACFP. And then how do you tell if a grain is whole grain? Okay, we'll skip that. All right, so the food program requires annual training topics. And as you know, a requirement to be on the food program is to attend annual training every year and to be trained on certain required documents. So what is the food program? We learned that the food program is a nickname for the Child and Adult Care Food Program. It's a federal funded program administered by the United States Department of Agriculture, or USDA. The USDA sets the rules and regulations that must be followed across the entire country. Now, in each state, there's one state agency that oversees the program across the state. So in Arkansas, as you know, in the past, we have been under DHS, and then we were transferred to Department of Education. Well, within the last few months, we have been transferred over to the state Arkansas Department of Agriculture. And I'll just be honest right now, I don't know what that's going to look like. We have not heard anything from them. I don't even know if they have people in the positions yet, but the state is working on it. And that's also the reason that our funding has been slower to receive. The funding is secure through the federal government, but where it's getting lagged is in the state. But I promise you that once funding is received to us, your sponsor, the next day I'm directly depositing it into your account. So we do not hold on to your money, but just be aware that with this transition from the Department of Ed to the Department of Agriculture, there has been some issues with us receiving our funding. So I'm hoping that within the next few weeks, they're going to get all of that ironed out after they were, closed for their end of the year, which is July 1. So I'm sure that y'all have seen some delays in some of your other funding that comes from the state. Okay. So we are your sponsoring organization, AR Children, and we work directly with you to help your operation be successful. So I hope you recognize this image on this slide. This is a CACFP meal pattern chart, and there's a copy in your red folder. But you also should have a laminated copy on a red clipboard in your daycare center or home in your kitchen. I have given those out when I've signed you up or at previous trainings. So what do these meal pattern charts tell us, and what are they for? The CACFP meal pattern tells us which meal components or food groups and the amounts of foods that need to be served at each meal and snacks for each of the age group. The amount listed on these charts are what? They're the minimum amounts. So you can always serve more than the amount listed on the meal pattern chart, but not less. You may be wondering about any upcoming changes to the meal pattern based on the new dietary guidelines. We'll address a few of the things later in the training. But for now, we are still going by this meal pattern. So we're going to look closely at some of the child menu patterns right now, not the infants. We will look at infants in a minute. So if you have that chart available, go ahead and take it out. And as we go through some of these questions, I want you to be able to tell me if these meals are reimbursable or not, and can they be claimed? And if they're not, what can we do to make them reimbursable? And some of these questions are also a part of your questionnaire. So think about this for a moment. Is this breakfast reimbursable? What do you think? We have yogurt, strawberry, and granola. Good job. Okay. The answer is no. This breakfast is not reimbursable. Oh my goodness, why not? It looks like a perfectly great breakfast, right? But what is missing? What is missing on this breakfast? That's right. There is no milk. It's missing the milk. And although yogurt is a dairy, it does not credit as milk. Only milk can be milk. Only fluid milk can be milk. So the yogurt could credit as a meat or meat alternate, but not as a milk. How about this breakfast? Here we have an egg, beans, and potato breakfast bowl with milk. Credible or not credible? The answer is yes. This breakfast is reimbursable. The eggs in the breakfast bowl are the meat and meat alternate served in place of the grain. The potatoes and the beans, they count as a vegetable. This breakfast bowl is actually a USDA standardized recipe that can be easily found online. And just as a reminder, how often can we have meat or meat alternates be served in the place of grain for breakfast? Yes, 3 times per week. Meat or meat alternates can be served in place of grain at breakfast up to 3 times a week. Does anyone here serve any vegetables at breakfast, sometimes instead of fruit? The second component of the breakfast meal pattern for children is actually fruit or vegetable, so it is an option. I'd love to hear, and in our in-person, I was able to get people to actually share some ways that they have maybe used vegetables for breakfast instead of just fruits. A lot of them did say that they do hash browns and beans, and I think someone said that maybe cucumbers they had done for breakfast. Trying to think. Mostly fruits, so is what you hear. That most of y'all do fruits, and not vegetables. All right, now moving on to lunch and dinner meals. Dinner and supper means the same thing, so I'm using the word dinner, but the meal pattern is the same for lunch and dinner. So here we have a tater tot hot dish or casserole, broccoli, apple slices, and milk. What do you think? Is this a reimbursable lunch meal? Good job. The answer is no. This one is not reimbursable, but why? Oh, sorry, I went too fast, didn't I? And remember, anytime that you're serving casseroles, that you want to list the ingredients. So you want to list that you had tater tots, and then you had, ground turkey or ground beef, whatever is in the casserole. And also remember, if you're combining a bunch of different food items into, say, like a casserole or a soup or something, that it can only be counted for 2 food groups. So you could count it as a vegetable and a meat. You could count it as your bread or grain and a meat, but not all 3. Okay, moving along to your snacks. Here's one that I have seen before: ham and cheese. Does this sound like a good, reasonable snack? It sounds like a good snack, right? But is it reimbursable? Actually, no. And why is that not? Because both of those food items come from the same food group. So they're both considered meat or meat alternates. Each snack needs to include 2 different meal components. They can choose any 2 from the 5 meal components. So what could you serve instead, or what could you add to it? We discussed this in person, and most people agreed to just add crackers. Have some whole wheat crackers with your cheese and meat. I mean, that just seems logical. Have some pretzels. You could add a fruit. Lots of options there. Okay, now this one I kind of put y'all in groups, and we were going to look at this day of a menu, and I wanted you to find all the things, all the mistakes, any issues that you might see on this menu, and then make changes. How could you make this day credible? So I just want you it's a little bit harder since we're doing it as a video, but just take a minute and look through each menu and see what you think might not be credible and what could you do to fix it? All right. Let's go over these together. So first thing that I saw is juice was served more than once. Orange juice was served at breakfast, and then grape juice was served as the afternoon snack. And the federal guideline for that is that you can only serve juice once per day. Now, I know that in the past, I have trained that we don't want to serve juice more than 3 times a week. And that was a state guideline, not a federal guideline. And until I receive any training and information from the Department of Agriculture from the state, we're just going to follow federal regs. So I am telling you today that if you want to serve juice, that's fine. Just no more than once per day. Okay? The next thing that we see is for AM snack, we have strawberries and bananas. And these both come from the same food group. So you would want to choose another item to add to it. Maybe adds a graham cracker. You could add yogurt. You could add Cheerios. Add something else to it, or just have one fruit and something else. All right. Also, one thing that I see is that the vanilla wafers are still considered a cookie, which is a grain-based dessert. And remember, grain-based desserts are not allowed to be served on the food program. Now, we do have 2 exceptions with the child program, and they are animal crackers and graham crackers. So, but you still need to watch your labels, because I noticed that the little individual packages of animal crackers, some of them say animal cookies, and they're still shaped like little animals, and so people think that they're credible. But if you look at the nutrition label, you will see that those little bags of animal cookies have like 26 grams of sugar in that little bag. So make sure that you're getting animal crackers and not animal cookies. And graham crackers, same thing. Watch your sugar content. And also the graham crackers, you can get whole grain options. So that can be your whole grain for the day. So, which leads me to the next thing, is that there's no whole grain items served this day. So one thing you could do is you could have whole grain pancakes. You could, instead of white rice, you could do brown rice. You could have graham crackers that are whole grain instead of the vanilla wafers. So there's lots of ideas of how to put those whole grain in, but remember that you need to have at least one whole grain item per day. And please indicate what you are choosing to count as your whole grain by putting a WG beside it. That way, whoever picked up your menu at the office and is double checking it will know that, hey, the graham crackers that they served today were a whole grain because they put a WG beside it. And if there's not, we're going to just assume that they're not whole grain. Like the pancakes, they could be whole grain, but they may not be. So, what are ways, we kind of already went through that we could fix it, but here's what we came up with is, instead of the orange juice, you could have actual oranges, like mandarin oranges or big oranges, and cut them in half. AM snack, we could add some yogurt. Lunch, we're going to substitute the white rice for brown rice, and that will be our WG, or whole grain for the day. Instead of vanilla wafers, we're going to have animal crackers, which are credible. Throughout the presentation, I've put some images that I received from Provider's Choice. These are some that their providers had sent in as examples of things that they have served. So this was like on Valentine's Day. So it was a Valentine's Day themed snack from a provider in Minnesota. and I thought it was cute. So there's several of these throughout the presentation. I just wanted to show you. All right, so now we're going to move on to the infant meal pattern. So what age range is considered an infant? Okay, that's right, 0 to 12 months. And we have two groups of infants, 0 to 5 months and 6 to 11 months. So when that child turns a year old, they're going to move to the child menu pattern. And please note that the term solid food, when I say solid food, means any infant foods, purees, or soft foods served to infants. They're introduced when each child is developmentally ready for them, which is usually around 6 months of age, but not necessarily. And I think that there's been a lot of questions and maybe some miscommunication about child readiness and developmentally readiness. So please reach out if you have any questions or concerns about that. But in the past, the food program has said at 6 months of age, you must present cereals and fruits and vegetables. But now, with new guidance from USDA, they are doing developmental readiness, because sometimes you will have a 4 or 5 month old that's already sitting up in a high chair and has good head control and can move food from the front of their mouth to the back of their mouth, and they're ready for cereals and they're ready for fruits and vegetables. But sometimes you might have one that's 9 months old and still can't hold their head up and still taking a bottle and is not ready. So it's really important that you work with the parents and work with a pediatrician and determine when is the right time to introduce solid foods to each individual child. Okay, so we're going to say that I'm a provider and I have a 10-month-old infant enrolled. His name is Jimmy, and Jimmy's a happy baby who's developmentally ready and approved to eat a variety of foods from all food groups. So my 10-month-old loves pancakes, and the parents have signed off on table food at this point. So the breakfast I have planned for my toddlers, preschoolers, and school age today is pancakes, applesauce, and milk. Jimmy loves it, and he wants to have it as well. So can I give Jimmy his formula bottle with pancakes and applesauce and claim this for his breakfast? What do you think? And there was some mixed results on this. Yeah, a lot of people were like, I think so. And then other people were like, no, you can't. But the reason why? What is that? Why is this not reimbursable? Oops, I'm so sorry. I can't go back. Okay, I'm so sorry. I'm not sure what happened, but for the lunch, Jimmy, for the older kids, we were having tacos with beef, 100% beef, and cheese, and having some black beans and peaches. And so I want to know, could we serve this to Jimmy? Because he's developmentally ready. The taco meat and cheese could count as infant cereal or meat alternates. The beans and peaches could count as a fruit or vegetable, and the formula counts as the breast milk or the formula component. So the tortilla doesn't count towards anything, but it's okay to serve in addition to the required items. Now let's look at Jimmy's snack. The snack I had planned for the toddlers, preschoolers, and school age is Ritz crackers and cheese. Jimmy is allowed to have these items per his parents, but he also would want to have his formula. Is this credible? What's wrong with the snack? Go ahead and look at your infant meal pattern chart. If you are unsure. But right, this is not reimbursable snack for a 10-month-old because it's missing a fruit or vegetable. the cheese is great, but it doesn't actually count for anything for Jimmy's infant snack. So why is that, do you think? Why would USDA require Jimmy to have a fruit or vegetable at snack? It's to provide many opportunities to introduce different fruits and vegetables early on. Offering a variety of fruits and vegetables to Jimmy when he's just learning to eat increases the likelihood that he will develop a preference for those. As he gets older, he is more likely to eat a variety of fruits and vegetables packed with the nutrients he needs for healthy growth and development. So here's a few common questions. I have a 6-month-old breastfed infant starting solids, and mom wants to bring her own purees. Can I claim that meal? What do you think? The answer is no, because only one meal component can come from home, and this infant already has breast milk coming from home, so the purees would be a second meal component from home, and those meals cannot be claimed. Now, if you were providing formula for the baby and the mom wanted to bring her own puree, then you could still claim it because you would be providing one of the components for that child. Okay, what about this one? Parents want their 11-month-old to be served whole milk instead of formula. Can I claim this meal? The answer is no. Cow's milk cannot be served to children under 1 year of age in the food program, unless, obviously, you have a special dietary statement. Cow's milk has too much protein and minerals for children under 1 year old, and it's really hard for them to digest, and it leads to stomach issues and digestive issues. So if a parent is wanting this, then I would ask for a special dietary statement from a doctor. I have a child in care who just turned 1 year of age and is still drinking formula. Can I claim this meal? What do you think? Actually, yes, until they turn 13 months old. Recommended mixing the cow's milk and gradually increasing proportions of cow's milk each week to transition to complete cow's milk by 13 months is what they recommend. But also, if they want to go further than 13 months, then you would want to have that special dietary statement. I have a newly enrolled 1 year old who's still drinking breast milk. Is that okay? What do you think? The answer is yes. Breast milk is credible at any age in the CACFP. No extra documentation is required to serve breast milk in place of cow's milk. And if the amount of breast milk available does not meet the minimum requirement portion size for the age of the child and meal type, then the breast milk does need to be supplemented with cow's milk. So if they're 1 year old and they're required to have 4 ounces of milk for breakfast and 4 ounces of milk for lunch, and the mom does not produce enough or doesn't send enough, then you would need to supplement. We also see a lot of exempt formulas. Exempt means the U.S. Food and Drug Administration has determined that these formulas do not meet the standard of iron-fortified infant formulas and is not credible in the CACFP. However, exempt formulas are common. And I'm going to show you some examples. They're very common for infants who were born prematurely or have trouble digesting regular infant formula. And many of them are available at regular retail grocery stores. So look at this picture. So these are some very common ones. So if you do have an infant in your care that wants one of these formulas, you will still need a special dietary statement. Okay? You can provide it, or the parent can provide it, but you'll still need a special dietary statement to serve it. The key word to look for in infant formulas can be hyperallergenic or for babies born prematurely. Here's another snack served at a family style in a family daycare. Okay, the next required training topic is meal count, and we have a little scenario for you to think about. Let's say it's snack time and the children have the option to come to the table for snack or not. Here we have 5 children who came to the table for a snack and 2 children who continued playing blocks and did not come to the table. This one was a very heated discussion in our in-person classes. What do you think? Should we claim the snack for the 2 children who did not come to the table for a snack? A lot of people thought yes, but the actual answer is no, is that you should not you should not claim the kids that don't come to the table, even if the plate was made and set in front of them. Now, a lot of us could argue that you still prepared the food and you put the food in front of them and they chose not. So I would say just be very careful and train the kids that they need to come and sit at the table. And then if they decide not to eat the snack, then of course that would be on them, and you can still claim them. But they're not, these kids, they're playing with the blocks, they're not participating in snack time. Here's another really pretty, making like credible charcuterie boards. I know this would be very difficult for centers unless you made like a board per classroom. But for a smaller family daycare home, these are great ideas, and it's fun for the kids. And then you just have to let them know how many of each item they need to choose to make sure that they get enough to meet their minimum requirements. We'll spend just a moment here on record keeping. We've talked a bit about keeping up with our records. So you should see there's 2 questions here. The first question is, how long do food program records need to be kept? And I want you to think about this and look at the answers. I know that I have told you different in the past, and that is because of state requirements and state people. So the federal guidelines is 3 years plus the current year that you're working on. And you need to make sure that you're keeping all of your documents, all of your enrollment forms, all of your production records, all of your special dietary statements, and all of your receipts. Basically, any records or paperwork you need for the food program, you need to be keeping them for at least 3 years. And remember that we also keep them, and we keep them for 5. So we keep everything for 5 plus the year that we're working on. So CACFP reimbursement funds are received by our children about a week after we've submitted it to the state. But since, I'll just tell you, it's been slow, and especially since the end of June, we have not received any money from the state in the last 3 weeks. So, just remember, and don't get upset with Mona or Kristen or Shelby. If you call and say, I haven't received my reimbursement, it's definitely not their fault. Okay. And as soon as we receive those funds, I will be getting those out to you. So now we're going to move on to civil rights. The main point of this section of the training is to make sure that you all know the discrimination on the basis of protected class is prohibited. The protected class in CACFP are, and you can see all of it's race, color, national origin, sex, disability, age. And the only ones that I actually ever really see is age and disability. Age comes up sometimes when we talk about infant feeding, because I've had some daycares tell me, well, I'm just not going to offer the food program to the infants. I'm just going to require the parents to provide all the food. Well, unfortunately, if you're participating in the food program, you can't do that because you're discriminating against those poor babies. Okay? You still need to offer the benefits of the program, which includes offering all meal components and including iron-fortified infant formulas and cereals. And then also disabilities comes up because it encompasses special dietary needs, such as food allergies and intolerances. And I'm sure you know food allergies are very common. It seems like they're more common nowadays than they have been in the past. But please make sure that you are doing your due diligence to meet the needs of all of your children in care. And also make sure that we have those special dietary statements. So how do you know if you need a special dietary statement? Can the meal pattern requirement still be followed? Is the item being requested credible? So example, allergies or intolerance to peanuts. Can serve another meat or meat alternate instead. So, but what if they say they want oat milk in place of cow's milk due to a milk allergy? Then yes, you would need to have that special dietary statement. And I would say for any milk outside of soy or a lactose free, those two things you could provide without the note, but for everyone else, I would get that. And especially when it comes to those nut milks and oat milks and stuff, because they're really not milk and they're not nutritionally equivalent to cow's milk. This is what should be included on that statement. And this is what it looks like. You should all have a copy of this form. If you do not, please let us know and we'll get one to you. Okay, last year we talked about the new hot topics about yogurt and sugar limits with your cereals. So I think that everyone's doing a great job with that and looking at your labels. As I'm coming out to doing reviews, or if you have questions, don't hesitate to ask. As many of you likely have heard in the news, there's some new flexibility for milk in the National School Lunch Program. And when I made this slide, it hadn't come out yet about the child care program. So I told on the slide, I say that there's not any changes yet. Well, actually, we have a final rule. It's expanding fluid milk options in the CNP. So this is exciting. I think it's exciting because you can serve whatever kind of milk you want, pretty much. So once that child is 2 years of age, if you want to stick with the low fat or fat free milk, you can. But if you want to continue to give them whole milk or do 2% milk, you can do that. The same for your 6 to 12 years. And they also can have flavored milk as well as unflavored. Reduced fat, low fat, fat free, or whole. So this is a great option. Now I will tell you that on your production records, you can just tell us the types of milk and then just give us a total. And then make sure that on your receipts, Mona can find all of the different types of milk to add it up for your milk audit. But she doesn't necessarily need them to all be broken down. I would list them all, the types, like put a W for whole and 1% and S for soy. I would document all the types of milk that you're serving, but then you can add up the amount used altogether. So also in the news, we've heard about possible issues with federal funding. And as of now, and for the foreseeable future, I will tell you that our funding is stable. And I will let you know when if anything changes. If anything changes and we find out anything, you will be the first to know. Here's another cute little snack break. Okay, now we're going to go through a few of the common issues we see during visits and the claim process. We'll share instructions, reminders, and the best practices to help you avoid losing out on any reimbursement. I'm sorry, this one's kind of messed up. Oh, go back. Okay, well, it's coming into your sites and not seeing the things that need to be posted. So the very first thing that I do when I come in is I'm looking around. So when you're thinking, what are you looking for? This is what I'm looking for. I'm looking for the Justice for All posters is displayed with a non-discrimination statement. I'm looking for the Building for the Future handout. I'm looking for information about WIC and also your current menu and what you're planning on serving. Here's an example of one that I put together at our office to show you the things that I'm looking for. Okay. Not completing or dated for the wrong month. So a common issue that we see is this. I'm sorry that this doesn't look correct. But my point about this is your enrollment forms. So if Mona or Shelby calls and says, hey, Miss Carmel, I can see that we have a few kids that I don't have a production record for or a enrollment form for. Can you please send me an enrollment form? Well, let's say that it's today, which is July the 1st, and she is working on June's claim. Well, if she's working on June's claim, then that means she doesn't have an enrollment form dated in June. So don't send her an enrollment form dated July 1. It would need to be June the 1st or whenever her other enrollment form expired, whatever the date was for that. So please make sure that you're dating your enrollment forms correctly. And also please make sure you send in those enrollment forms before you claim the child. So say you had one that started July the 1st. Go ahead and get that enrollment form filled out and sent in before you send in your July claim. On your obligation to serve infant form, please make sure that not only do you list the type of formula that you're offering, but if the parent declines what's being offered, that they list what they're going to provide. Not that they're just going to provide it. We need to know what type of formula. Because if you remember, we talked about earlier about the exempted infant formulas. So we need to make sure that we have documentation on the type of formula that they're providing, or you have a special dietary statement that says this is why they're on a special formula that's not credible. Okay. Also, conversions. If you are using the Excel workbook to keep your production records, please do not convert them to Google Sheets. It really does mess things up. I know that Google Sheets is great and convenient because it's free, but please try not to do that. All of those documents have been created in Excel and they're protected. And for some reason, when people try to convert them to Google's, they just don't work. So, and if you're having trouble with your workbook, please talk to Kristen about it at the office. And if she has any trouble, then she can contact Nathan and he can help. But just try not to make any changes to those workbooks. Make sure that your receipts are legible. They should only include food items served during the month that you're claiming, and it should only be food items. It shouldn't be diapers and crayons and construction paper and things like that. It should just be things that you would be spending your food money on. Okay, another big hot topic is the child nutrition labels, product formulation statements. And I know that so many of you struggle, and I know that it's not all your fault. It's just hard. Um, um, where we live, it's just hard in Arkansas to find things with CN labels. So remember, anything that's pre-cooked, breaded, ready to eat, heat and serve, combinations of meat and meat alternates, and bread and stuff has to have a CN label, or you can get a product formulation statement. This is what um, um, a child nutrition label looks like, and this is a product formulation statement. They are very uncommon in a retail store, and I'll just say, I mean, occasionally you can find some at Sam's, occasionally, but for the most part, the only way you're going to get products with CN labels is if you use a food distributor. Now, the product formulation statements, you can contact the manufacturers and get copies of those. And since there has been a lot of questions about that, I tried to contact local people to try to get you some help. The only two companies that I was able to actually speak to and were helpful were Tyson and Benny Keith. And so if you have others that you would like to share, please share those. Share those with Mona, share them with Kristen, so that we can let other daycares know about it. But Tyson Food, they would not give me a list, but they said if you would email customerrelations@tyson.com, let them know who you are and say that you need a product formulation statement for this product, and you provide them with the UPC barcode, they will email you a product formulation statement. But she would not give me a list, and she said that each center would have to reach out and ask for on the product that they're purchasing. So from the way she talked, it sounds like all Tyson Foods have a product formulation statement. I've also heard that Members Mark also has product formulation statements on all of their products, but I couldn't get a contact with anyone. And they told me, the one person I talked to said they don't share that information because I guess they think that you're going to go and make chicken nuggets and sell them. I don't know. It doesn't make a whole lot of sense. But a person that I talked to that was really kind was from Benny Keith. They have a long list of CN products. They are willing to deliver. They were just super kind. They will deliver anywhere in the state with an $800 order. But if you don't some centers, I would think that wouldn't be that big of a deal. Maybe you just do it every other month or every third month, maybe if you're smaller and you're in a smaller town and you want to get together with another provider and share the cost. I thought that was an idea. The other thing is if you're not far from North Little Rock, she said that you can call Garrett Morris and or send an email and say that you would like to place an order, set up an account and place an order. She said at any amount you could drive to North Little Rock and pick it up. And you just schedule it, and they're willing to do that for anyone in the state. So that was really neat, because I know a lot of y'all are within Central Arkansas, and so it wouldn't be that difficult to drive to North Little Rock once a month or once every 2 months, to be able to get boxes of chicken nuggets and boxes of things that do have a CN label. And I mentioned this prior about anything that's combination, but one that I saw was chicken spaghetti. You remember anything that you serve that's a combination, that you need to separate the ingredients on your production record. So you would tell us that it was chicken, 2 pounds of chicken breast, and you had a pound of spaghetti noodles, and it can only be counted as 2 different food groups. So say you added a can of stewed potato or tomatoes to that, or sweet peas, or you added something else, a vegetable to it, you would not be able to count your meat, your bread, and a vegetable in one item. So my recommendation would be to make the spaghetti with the chicken and the cheese and stuff, and then have a vegetable on the side and have a fruit on the side to make it credible. Prior notice, please, please, please. I am the one that's out doing most of the visits now. So please let the office know if you plan on being closed for any reason, okay? So that way I don't show up at your home or your center and be like, hi, I'm here to do a review, nobody's there. So please let us know. Okay, that concludes the first half of the training. I'm just going to go ahead and start into the second half. But if you need a break, I would say pause it here, take you 5-minute break, get you a drink of water, go to the bathroom, whatever you need to do, and then come back and finish the second half of this training. Okay, so the second half is going to be about the Snack Smart Grow Strong initiative. So when it comes to feeding kids, you may feel a lot like the people who created these social media posts. So read over these. They're kind of fun. My kid before dinner, I'm starving, I need a snack. My kid during dinner, I'm so full, I can't eat. My kid after dinner, I'm starving, I need a snack. And this repeats forever. And then here's a picture, a screenshot of what the snacks my kid ate today. And then here's the meals my kids ate today. And I can see this very true, especially in the summertime with my own child. So snacks are important. And this I thought was really good. I mean, it is the type of food doesn't matter. It's the atmosphere in which the food is offered. Maybe it's really just that the goldfish crackers are delicious, but they're consistent and they're safe. And when they get home, dinner is always a gamble. One, they may not know what they're going to have, if there's going to be anything on the dinner table. Are their parents going to be there? Are they going to be getting along? Are they going to be fighting? There's so many things that our children have to deal with in their homes. So we just want to make sure that when we have them, that we're giving them the most nutritious options that we can, and a safe environment for them to be able to try new things. Are snacks really that important? Well, babes, on this photo, this looks like a nice breakfast, right? But a few years ago, I did a training and I reviewed portion sizes. And in that training, we looked at the size of a child's stomach, which is about the size of a child's fist. So for the sake of the estimation, we looked at the capacity of a child's stomach as it was a tall size Starbucks cup. So if we look at that again, and we estimate that a child's stomach capacity to be around the tall size of the Starbucks cup, then that bowl of Cheerios, fruit, and milk, is there going to be enough room, So often as providers and caregivers, we get pretty generous with some of our portions, and they can offer more than the minimum. In the case of this bowl on the left, we're offering well over the minimum serving size. So, as an example, I would pour those Cheerios into the cup and it would overflow. And so, if you're overflowing their stomach with one thing, then there's not going to be room for the fruits and vegetables and for the milk. And then, of course, because their cute little stomachs are so small, in 5 minutes, what's going to happen again? They're hungry again, and it's just a vicious cycle. And that's why I think that the minimum portion sizes are so important, is that you want to start out with a minimum of all the different food groups. And then if they want more, of course it's okay. but you want to make sure that they're getting, well, nutrients and a balanced meal. So snacks fill critical nutrition gaps kids commonly miss at meal times. Across many surveys, kids often fall short on fiber, calcium, iron, vitamin D, and zinc. Smartly planned snacks, like example yogurt and berries or hummus and vegetables, are one of the most effective ways to fill those gaps. Healthy snacks directly support cognitive growth and learning. Foods eaten at snack time contribute meaningfully to brain development. Research highlights links between nutrition and attention, memory problems, problem solving, and long-term academic performance. Try foods like hard-boiled eggs and avocado, bean dip, and whole grain crackers. Snacks prevent energy crashes because kids' stomachs are tiny. Children burn energy really fast, but their stomachs are only about the size of their fist, so they physically can't take in enough at meals to fuel long periods of time. So snacks function as mini meals that prevent energy dips and support steady activity and growth. Think whole wheat tortilla roll-ups with turkey or whole wheat English muffin pizzas. Offering snacks on predictable schedule help kids understand hunger cues, regulate their appetite, and avoid overeating at meals. Most early childhood guidance recommends 2 to 3 snacks spaced 1.5 to 2 hours apart from meals and snacks. So early snack habits shape long-term eating behaviors. Early childhood is a critical window for shaping lifelong taste preferences and food habits. Quality snacks help form healthy patterns that can track into adolescence and adulthood. However, how about snacks like edamame and brown rice or roasted chickpeas and milk? So think of a snack as a bridge between meals. Children have small stomachs that fill up and empty quickly, so snacks act as a very important bridge from one meal to the next. So what happens when kids go too long without eating? What behaviors do we see? That's right. They get cranky. They get hangry. So we want to make sure that we're giving them nurturing snacks. So what makes a nourishing snack? First of all, what does the word nourishing even mean? What do you think? Nourishing snacks are nutrition dense, high satiety snacks. So their satiety is, they're satisfying. A snack that keeps kids full. And what components do you think would give us a high satiety? Yes, that's right. Meat or meat alternates, that's what we call the protein component of the meal. High protein snacks are usually high satiety snacks. High what? Means it keeps them filling. It helps keep kids fuller longer. If you pair a meat alternate with a food that's high in fiber, then you have a solid snack, a nutrient dense, high satiety snack. So we want to do a meat or a meat alternate with something high in fiber. So what would be some examples of that? Here's a few images of some nutrient dense, high satiety snacks. A hard-boiled egg and snap peas. There's a chicken salad and whole wheat crackers. There's some cashews and some grapes. So just think of pairing, what's a good protein that you can pair with a high fiber. One of the real common ones that I see is like ants on a log. Kids love peanut butter. So peanut butter and celery. That way you're getting, peanut butter and you're getting fiber. And the raisins are fun, right? Think of some other ideas that you could incorporate into your menus. Snack times are important, and thinking of new ideas can be tougher at times. So if you scan this QR code, Provider's Choice has put together some great high protein, credible snack ideas that you can download. So we mentioned whole grain as a component of a high protein snack. Whole grain can be a challenge to identify to determine whole grain requirements. So let's do a quick poll. How often do you need to serve a whole grain in the food program? What do you think? Is every grain must be whole grain? A whole grain is required at every breakfast. A whole grain is required at least once per day at any meal or snack. Or a whole grain is required at least once per week at any meal or snack. The correct answer is C. A whole grain is required at least once per day, but at any meal. The primary ingredient must be whole grain, at least 50%. So here's an example. These are both common snacks that I have seen you guys serve. So look at the ingredient list. One of these is whole grain rich. The other is not. So is it A or B? It's A. That is correct. And this is what's funny about it is A is the Scooby snacks. They're baked graham cracker snacks. They're cinnamon flavored, but they are whole grain rich. But these rich crackers that are baked with whole grain, baked with whole wheat, are not. Are these crackers credible? Can you serve them on the program? Yes, you can serve them, but they will not count as your whole grain for the day. So please keep that in mind. And I know that a lot of times the marketing, it can be so unreliable. I mean, you really have to look at the ingredient list to know if they're credible or not. Okay, I have a couple little fun videos if I can get them to play. Let me see. Can I not? Aw. Well, that stinks. Okay, if you go to fns.usda.gov/CACFP/cooking videos, there are lots of really neat cooking videos that are they're just a couple of minutes long, to make different items for snacks. And the great thing is they show you step by step how to do it, and then they'll tell you how it's credited in the CACFP. And how do you make the food program snack fun? Here's an example of how they transformed a simple snack into a fun eating adventure with a little effort. So anytime that you can make it more fun, please do. Please do. They're so much more likely to eat it. I've said to most people, if you make it fun and if you sit down and have a snack with them. Here's a cute little snake made of cucumber slices and a tiny bit of red bell pepper for the tongue, and even some of the peeling for an eye. But this alone is not credible, so you need to add something to it. What could you add to it? You could make your own dip with plain yogurt and ranch dressing mix. You could give each child the minimum portion of yogurt and then let them add as much ranch dressing powder as they want, and then they could eat the rest of the yogurt separately. Here's a cute family style um, serving tray of fresh vegetables arranged to look like a lion. In the middle, you see a clever use of the bottom of the yellow pepper to make the mouth of the lion. Um, the main is made out of bell peppers, carrots, and cucumbers. And since the round crackers are used to the ears, you could choose to serve Ritz crackers as a second meal component and make sure there's enough for everyone, obviously. Um, and you'll have to tell them, how many bell peppers and carrots that they would need to take, and cucumbers that they need to take to make sure that they get the minimum requirement. And I think you could provide little tongs and so that they could, practice picking them up and to make it more fun. In the past, I've given y'all some, uh, oh, chopsticks and that have the little chopstick holder that's plastic so that it kind of makes it like a tong. That would be fun. You could have all different types of dressings and dips so that they could try different dips. Anytime you can provide a dip, kids love dipping. Here's another way that you could use an ice cube tray, like from the dollar store. Kids love foods to be in containers, like those little like bento boxes and things like that. Um, I do think this could be very messy, and that's a lot of components. Like I would probably put four, fill up four of them with the same, component. But anyway, it's still cute, cute, cute. Serve the same food but in different ways. Sometimes just the way you cut it up in different shapes and sizes. The way you cook it, prepare it, decorate it. You add dressings and things to stuff. Oh, make it like broccoli. Most kids don't love broccoli, but what if you chopped it and made it into a broccoli salad? Broccoli bites, and we saw some of these broccoli bites on the Oscar and the Grouch from Sesame Street. You can get that recipe. It's credited for CACFP on the NCA website. Also, broccoli can be really good roasted with salt and pepper or ranch seasoning or raw with any kind of dip. Theme snacks for special events. Here we have strawberries with the tops cut off to make the shapes of a heart and make into a simple fruit pizza with plain yogurt and graham crackers. This will be cute for Valentine's Day. Kids love to help make food. Here's some examples of things most kids can do or practice when preparing food together. Kids can stir, they can pour, they can rip, they can assemble, they can count, they can hold measuring cups and spoons, they can cut soft food with table knives or cookie cutters. What are some other ways that you get your kids involved in the kitchen? Snack time is a great time to introduce new foods in a low pressure way. You can simply add a small amount of a new or unfamiliar food as a bonus in addition to the two required meal components. The two main meal component items can be familiar, reliable, well-liked items to fill up on while they consider trying a new bonus item. Another idea is encourage your kids to be food scientists before tasting something new. They can play games like, tell us about the color and the shape. What do you think it looks like on the inside? What does it feel like? What does it smell like? How does it sound when you break it? What does it sound when you bite into it? what do you think it's going to taste like? And I thought this was cute. When they're ready to taste it, you could invite them to try a puppy lick or a bunny nibble, something to make it more fun, um, or a dino chomp. Smoothies are also a great option for snack. Kids love them, and they can be really simple. They're especially great for use in using up the subpar fruit that doesn't have much flavor and is very ripe fruit, such as browning bananas or yesterday's mixed fruit. Um, Consider making all fruit smoothies to pair with a grain or a meat alternate. If you want to add yogurt and milk, it could be credited, um, but the oh USDA memo that came out a few years ago said that fruit and vegetables used in smoothies would only credit as juice. So if you had a smoothie, that would be like you had your 4 or 6 ounces of juice that day. Okay. So keep that in mind if you choose to serve a smoothie for snack. I don't know that I would try this maybe for a small family daycare home that doesn't have a lot of kids, but getting the kids to use an immersive blender to make their own smoothies. I think it would be fun, but I think it would be extremely messy. So what ideas do you have? Think about some ideas that you may have. When we did this in person, I took a lot of time and let people share. That's one thing I do really like about in person is that you really get to know other people that are doing the same thing that you're doing every day. So I encourage each of you that are watching this video to try your best to attend one of the in-person trainings next year. And I'm going to try to offer more in different locations to meet everyone's needs. So what are you excited to try? Is there anything you've seen or heard about in this training that you plan to try in your program? Here's some resources. So you could take a minute, and I'll leave it on this page so you can scan these QR codes. But the USDA Team Nutrition created the Let's Make a Snack handbook for a couple years ago, pictured on the far left. It's an extensive guide to all things CACFP snacks for children ages 3 and up. The second resource is those cooking videos. The next one is an article from the National CACFP Association with Healthy Snack Ideas. And in your red folder, there was also a child nutrition magazine that I purchased that's all about snacks. It has all kinds of great ideas in it that I thought that y'all would enjoy. The next resource is a snack-inspired guide from the Wisconsin Department of Public Instruction. It includes a lot of snack ideas, simple recipes, and menus. And also that in that red folder that you received, there's the new crediting handbook. There's some new cards that I ordered for you. So please feel free to utilize any of those resources. So what questions do you have? I'm sure that a lot of you have questions. If you do, please don't hesitate to reach out to me. My name's Nicole again. My email is nicole@ar-children.com. So after completing this training, you should accurately identify credible and whole grain rich food items and describe the key elements of a high satiety snack in the CACFP. The next thing that we kind of talked about was we are offering kid care to anyone who would like to try it out. We will pay for the cost, the monthly charge. We will cover that if you would like to try it. If you are interested, let Kristen know. She can send you some videos to watch to learn more about it. But it would totally eliminate the workbook. So what you would have to do is you create a login, and this is web based. So the good thing about it is you can pull it up on any device. You would log in, and you'd be able to track all of your kids and your attendance records and what you served and how much you served and all of that. And it will do a report that you can send in to submit your claim. And the great thing is it double checks everything, and it will give you an error report and give you the opportunity to go back and fix any errors that it finds. So it's a great program, and I would love to see more, especially our daycare centers, to use this program. It's not required, so don't feel like it's something that you have to do. If you're happy doing it pencil paper, or you're happy using the Excel workbook, then continue to do that. But this is just another thing that we wanted to offer to you. Most of the other states do use a web-based program for submitting their claims. So I just wanted to have this available for those that are interested. So like I said, don't hesitate to reach out if it's something you might be interested in. And you can also go, the video is not going to play, unfortunately. But if you go to KidCare, www.kidcare.com, you can look at it and see if it's something you might be interested in. Okay. And also be aware that if it's something that you are interested in, it's not going to be like, okay, you can start using it today. It takes time. It will take time, and it'll take some additional training to get started with it. Because at the beginning, you have to enter every child and all their information. You got to enter all of your menu items and create your menus, and it just takes some time at the beginning. But once everything is built, I promise you'll love how easy it is to use on a daily basis, and how easy it is to submit your claim at the end of the month. So thank you for staying for this entire training. If you will please fill out that training checklist and the Q&A and send those back, then we will email you a 2-hour training certificate for your time. If you need PDR credit, make sure that you listed your PDR number on there, and we'll do our best to make sure that you get that PDR credit for your time here.